Hi, and congratulations on your 2019 S Qashqai. This is a great little crossover vehicle. I know we covered a lot during the delivery on this vehicle, but I want to refresh your memory on everything that we went over. At the end of this, if you still have any questions on your vehicle, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. All of my contact info will follow. In the meantime, let's go back over this magnificent vehicle that you've just purchased and make sure that you're familiar with all the features that you've got, because there's quite a few. On the right side of our steering wheel, we've got our Bluetooth hands-free. So to answer a call and hang up, we're going to hit this button here. To make an outbound call, we're going to use the voice button. You can also use this button to access functionality on your phone. For instance, I have an iPhone, so I can access Siri by pressing and holding for 2 seconds. And then I can, over voice, send a text message or access my maps or whatever I need to do. This dial here is going to turn on my cruise control. Once I do that, I can use this to set it. So I can set, resume, cancel if I want to increase my speed or decrease my speed. Pretty standard for cruise. Over on this side of our steering wheel, we've got our volume for our radio. Down below here, these buttons, when you are on AM, FM, or satellite, are going to go through your presets. So we see right now I'm on preset 6. As I hit the left arrows, I see it going back through the presets. If I hit the right arrows, it goes up through the presets. This is a back button here. Now our OK button with the arrows around it is for our driver assist display. Now right now I am on trip 1. If I press up or down, I can get to trip 2. From this screen, if I press the OK button, it brings me to reset it. So I can go in and I can reset just my trip odometer, or I can say all. Now, average speed is currently turned off on this vehicle because it is strictly an average. I typically turn it off for most of my customers because that is their preference. You can turn it back on because some people do like to see their overall average speed. If I say all, it's going to reset the trip, average fuel economy, and average speed. So trip has been reset, so my distance and the time that I'm burning have just been reset. Now if I go to the right, I get my average fuel economy, and again, up or down will get me to number 2. Now I just changed to fuel economy number 2, so if I go back now, I'm now on trip 2. If I change back to trip 1 and go back to the fuel economy, I'm on fuel economy 1. They will change together when you change them. This screen here is going to show you what's going on with your audio. From this screen, you have total control of everything to do with your audio right from the left side of your steering wheel, right here. So we've already seen the volume controls. We've seen the 2 buttons here to go through our presets on the radio. If you're streaming through USB, Bluetooth, CD, Apple CarPlay, or Android Auto, these will skip tracks. And then from this screen, if I press the OK button, I'm going to switch from FM to satellite to Bluetooth to auxiliary to AM and then back to FM. If I have something connected to the USB or CD in, those become options as well. Our next screen here is regarding our safety shield. So this screen here, this is going to go over everything to do with your safety shield. You've got automatic emergency braking in the front. So with that, if the vehicle up ahead of you is within a good distance and they suddenly slam on the brakes and you're closing that gap really fast, inside the vehicle here, it will beep at you and the gas pedal will push back against your foot a little bit. Now, if you don't react fast enough, because we can't always react fast enough based on the distance, the beeping will get louder and faster, and if necessary, it will start to apply the brakes for you. You also have forward collision warning, which is just the beeping that happens initially. So if I'm driving up the road and the car ahead of me is turning onto a side road and I'm catching up to it, I know it's going to be out of the way before I ever get there, but I'm not slowing down. It will beep at me inside the vehicle because I'm closing that gap quickly. You have blind spot indicators on each side of your vehicle. On the inside, on the A-frame pillar next to your mirrors. If you have a vehicle in your blind spot, whether you're passing it or it's passing you, whichever side it's on, the indicator on that side is going to light up a dull orange and stay lit up as long as part of that vehicle is in your blind spot. Now let's say, for example, my driver's side indicator is lit up, and while it's lit up, I signal to go left. This indicator is going to start flashing and it's going to beep 3 times inside the Qashqai here to let me know I need to have a look over my shoulder. There's something in my blind spot. You also have rear cross traffic detection, so if you're backing out of a parking spot and there's movement coming towards you from within 2 car lengths on either side of your Qashqai, it's going to beep at you inside the Qashqai, and whichever side your movement is coming from, your blind spot indicator on that side of the vehicle is going to be flashing. So it's saying, hey, you got something coming at you from that side of the vehicle. If you give it a moment and watch your backup camera, you'll actually see it go past you. These will all give you visual warnings on the screen here as well, but you're going to be more concerned with what's going on around you than you are paying attention to the screen. We see our tire pressure monitoring system here. So with your Qashqai, as you drive, these all populate. It will show you the individual pressure for each wheel. If you were to get a low tire pressure, it's going to pop up and tell you low tire pressure, but it's going to tell you which tire is low. From there, when you go to the garage to fill the tire that needs air, simply start putting air in it. When it gets to the right pressure, the horn's going to beep to tell you to stop. If you were to continue going and hit an upper limit, which most of these are currently at, once you hit that upper limit, it's going to beep 3 times in a row. At that point, we recommend doing that to all 4 wheels so that you have even tire pressure across all of them and even tire wear. This screen is applicable for anybody who has the all-wheel drive. If you do not, you can ignore this part of the video. If you do have all-wheel drive, this screen will show when you're in all-wheel drive because you've got an intuitive all-wheel drive. Pulling away from a dead stop, you're in all-wheel drive. Once you get going, it drops down to front-wheel drive. As you're moving along, it's going to drop down to front wheel, but if you hit any situation that you need the extra power, all-wheel drive will instantly kick in. Or if you hit any traction conditions, for example, hydroplaning, slippery roads, loose gravel, etc., all-wheel drive is instantly going to kick in, and it will do so as needed. Now down below here, I do have an all-wheel drive lock that when I engage that, it shows up here. That will keep me locked into all-wheel drive up to 40 kilometers per hour. Once I go above 40, the all-wheel drive lock is going to come off. Once it comes off, it's still going to engage all-wheel drive as necessary up to 145 kilometers an hour. So anywhere that you can legally drive in North America, you have all-wheel drive available. This screen will allow us to review any warnings, so I'm going to go back 1 screen and intentionally cause a warning. So there's a warning telling me I have a door open. It tells me on the screen here, but I also get a yellow triangle with an exclamation mark up here. So if I clear this by pressing the OK button, my triangle stays. Now, later on, as I'm driving along, I'm trying to remember what was the triangle for. If I come back to the warning screen, it tells me warning 1 of 1. If you had multiples, it would say 1 of 2 or 1 of 3 or whatever the case is. Up or down here will allow you to scroll through if you have multiple warnings. To clear your warning off, simply correct the issue. Everything goes away and you're good to go. Our last screen over is our settings. With our settings screen, if I look at this, there are a couple things that I've changed. Now I mentioned I've turned off the average speed, so I can come into the main menu and I can turn that back on, or I've also got the chassis control screen turned off. This is related to your chassis and how it's reacting to hard bumps and hard turns with the active trace control. If you want that on, simply turn it on. It will show you where on the vehicle it is reacting to it by lighting up different colors depending on how hard you do it. We're going to hit our back button here and go back 2 screens and go down to vehicle settings. In here, so normally by default, our vehicle will automatically unlock the doors when you turn the vehicle off. So it's normally set for ignition off. For my customers, I tend to set it so that the moment you shift into park, it will automatically unlock the doors. It seems to be the preferred method for most people, so this is one setting that I change. If I come down out 2 screens and then down to wipers, I make sure that all of these are on. So what this does, when your wipers are on intermittent, they become speed dependent. So if you're driving locally and then move out to the highway, the time delay between each wipe will shorten up a little bit based on the speed that you're going. Reverse link is for your back wiper. So if you're driving along and your front wipers are on, your back wiper is not. When you go to back into a spot, even though that wiper is not on, because the front ones are, your back wiper is still going to make a pass in the window because you're in reverse. It's clearing it off so that you can see through that back window. Drip wipe is for when you clean your windows. So if I clean my window, I'll get 3 passes on the wipers, and then it's going to pause for a couple seconds, and then it's going to make one more pass to catch any drips that might be running down the windshield. Works the same on the back window. So I typically make sure those are on as well. If we go back again, rear door alert is a new functionality on our vehicles this year. It was on the Pathfinder 2018, just about everything else in 2019. This is a functionality that is off by default. If you go up to turn on horn and alert, what's going to happen is when you open the back door, it signals the vehicle that you've put something in the back. From then on out, once you get where you're going, you drive. When you turn the vehicle off, a message is going to pop up here telling you that rear door alert is on. When you get out and you shut your door, if you do not go and open that back door relatively quickly, your horn's going to beep 3 times in a row, and then pause, and then beep 3 times in a row. It's letting you know that whatever you put back there, you haven't taken out yet. This is a functionality that's off by default. It is not run based on pressure on the seat. It is run off of the door being open and shut. So whether you have groceries, a small animal, or a small child that you've put back there, this is designed to let you know that, hey, you haven't taken them back out since putting them back there. So we're going to have a look at a few buttons down on your dash, and we're going to go from there. So we have a few buttons here. First off, we've got our brightness for our dash when our lights are on. We have a trip reset here, so if I look down below, I see 36 kilometers for my odometer. Now trip 1 and trip 2 are showing up above, but if I press that trip reset, I have a trip odometer, trip A. If I press and hold, it will reset it. If I press it again, I get to trip B, same thing to reset. Once more, it brings me back to my odometer. So you do have 4 trip odometers, trip 1, trip 2, trip A, and trip B. This button is for our traction control. Now if I turn this off, it shows me up here. Unless you are familiar with driving without traction control, we highly recommend just leaving this button alone. When you turn off your traction control, I now have 2 cars crashing over here. What that's telling me is I have just disabled my automatic emergency braking and collision warning in the front. So we're going to turn this back on. Down below here, I've got my lock for my all-wheel drive that we talked about. I have eco mode, so when I turn this on, it shows up in green. This is going to help me get better gas mileage. The only thing to be aware of with eco mode is pulling away from a dead stop or trying to get out and around somebody quickly. It's going to feel a little bit sluggish compared to normal mode. Now your fuel tank release and your hood release are way down here. Your fuel tank is on the passenger side as indicated here. Now if I put it in reverse, I got a nice clear backup camera here. Now with my backup camera, I've got some distance markers here, so green, yellow, and red hash marks. As long as I keep whatever's behind me above the red hash marks, I have room to safely open my hatch. So I just want to keep that flower box in this case above the red hash marks, and I have room to safely open the hatch. If I had to get in really close to whatever's behind me, this is my bumper across the bottom of the screen here. With that said, I could get in so that it just looks like my bumper is touching, and when that's the case, I've still got about 3 inches worth of space. Now I do have predictive lines. As I move my wheel, I see an orange line that shows up and starts moving with me. This is going to show where you're going to go, and it is remarkably accurate. So that is your backup camera there. Congratulations again on your S Qashqai. This is a beautiful little crossover. For anybody who's looking for something just a touch smaller than the Rogue or wants to get into their first crossover, this is a great option. It's got a ton of space to it, drives beautifully, and it's super comfortable. And as we saw, has a ton of features on it for an entry-level crossover. If you still have any questions after going through everything in this video, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can call, text, email, or stop in the dealership at 60 Baker Drive. It's O'Regan's Nissan in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. I'm more than happy to answer any question that I can for you and help out in any way that I can. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy your vehicle as much as I know you will, and I look forward to dealing with you when it's time for your next one.